Good morning, and welcome to yet another episode of the Ridiculously Early J Morning Show. I'm your host, Michael, and today we are continuing our work on the REPL widget, the composite widget for showing the history of everything you've typed in and syntax highlighting your input as you go along. So let's jump right into it. Let's see, turn off the type. All right, where we left off yesterday, I was able to run this REPL widget standalone and type, and we get this nice syntax highlighting effect. You know, I keep typing this phrase and it doesn't mean anything, but we have this working. But the cursor is slightly off, and that is because we now have this REPL being composed of these two objects, the terminal or the token editor and the regular editor. The token editor is drawing these. In fact, I bet if I the token editor is drawing the colored strings, and then the yes, there we go. So the regular editor is drawing the real string. So one of these cursors is being drawn by the rightmost cursor is correct. But we have a second cursor being drawn after both of those are rendered, and those are still. And this function is part of ed, the plain text editor here, which appears when you when the token editor is not able to tokenize the input. So as in this case where there's an half broken string here, and what's happening is that believes. The rendering code always believes that it starts at the upper left-hand quarter, 0, 0. Which it doesn't here, and so we need to fix that. So I think the answer here is there's probably two answers. One would be to make this idea of a syntax highlighted line input, so like a syntax highlighted field, would be a standalone object, and it would have these two. It would do these three steps: draw the terminal, and if that fails, draw the regular cursor, and then draw the cursor over the I'm sorry, not the terminal, the token editor. And I actually think that might be the simplest way to do it. So the other option would be to rewrite render cursor ed for this object that knows where to position it within the screen, because this object also now contains the history. You don't see it on the screen here, but the intent is that it's the full screen widget now, and it will have the entire history of everything that would show up on the screen for this REPL at this particular point in time. So let's go ahead and just jump right in and fix that. I'm gonna opt for the idea of making, now that we have this kind of notion of composing widgets together, I think I'm just going to make a syntax highlighted line editor. So I'm going to call this co-class. UI syntax editor, syntax line, extends UI edit widget, syntax line. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to think of some newer names here, but better names here. And I'm just going to make ed be a UI syntax line. And we'll pass it that. So now this will have its own ed. So in create, this will have its own line. Yeah. Okay. This MJE thing is MJE is the name of the main program I have that has the. Oh, sorry. It's running very slow at the moment, but that has this text editor, or has this REPL widget embedded inside of a REPL. So the way that it fetches the history is going to change depending on whether we're running standalone or running inside of this program that allows you to move back and forth within the context of a screenplay where we're writing programming statements throughout the script. So that we have this little feature flag here just kind of temporarily until I can do it the right way. So that's being happening here. But I think that what we will do is we will say now ed, or MJE of ed is equal to ed, and again copy this notion here. So this is just kind of worming its way through, but it will all go away. So now all this, oh, hang on. This does not need to know anything about this because we're always going to have a single line regardless of whether we're pulling. This is only about the history, so we actually don't need this to be propagated to that new sub-object. And we don't need this because we're always going to draw a TED directly over ed, and they're both going to believe that they live at 0, 0. So inside of term draw ed, so now ed is, maybe we should call it shed for syntax highlighted editor, but this is the code for rendering just that one line. So let's move that here. This is now inherited from UI edit widget, so we can remove the underscore underscore ed. We can remove this. And so we will have we don't need ed here because ed is this thing. So this is myself now. So we already extend UI edit widget, but we do need to call super. Okay, and that was one of my questions is how do you call super? And the answer is, I know this now, you call, I believe this works, UI edit widget of, you call create in the UI edit widget namespace. You pass it Y, but first you use this flatten operator. So flatten, it goes through and kind of like resolves all the names. So in theory, flatten should be the way to lift the logic of create from UI edit widget into the namespace of UI syntax line. So I believe that works. We're going to try it out right now, so we'll find out. But that came from the OOP section of, that's the object-oriented programming section of this book, J for C Programmers. So, which is by Henry Rich, I believe, the current maintainer of J. Introduction. And somewhere in here, you can search for object-oriented programming, object, yeah, derived classes, and that's where I found this. So I read this book a long time ago. It's very, very helpful. And so here we're using create bake class. That's the trick. Okay, so definitely check this out if you're new to J. It's one of the books in the old documentation, but you can still find it online at jsoftware.com. Help J for C. The others are Learning J and the Primer, which is probably the shortest book, probably the shortest place to learn J. This is where I started. It's very, very, very helpful. Okay. Anyway, just making sure everything's working correctly. Good morning to those of you watching me on Twitch. I guess we have one viewer here, so hello. I always stream, or I am trying to stream every day from 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time, or Eastern Daylight Time, I believe. Okay, let's see. This, I think, was just kind of cleaning things up. We no longer need this because we are, this was cleaning things up back in the day when we were rendering every single object directly to the screen with ANSI escape codes or terminal escape codes. I think that can just go away now. The idea, normally when you draw a screen, you would normally set this R flag. R indicates that it needs a refresh. We would normally set that to 0. But I think all we need here is we're going to, so if we have a history, and we will put a history in the standalone thing shortly, but we need to clean it up a little bit. So, but we draw the history, and then we're going to term draw ed, which is now this, I am going to call it shed. I think it's a little silly name, but syntax highlighted line. So set syntax line sled. Yeah, whatever. I'll call it shed for syntax highlighted. Syntax highlighted editor. Okay. My phone's beeping at me, but that's all right. All right, so let's try this now. Did not like that at all because these are properties of the widget itself. Sounds like my other daughter's up. Value error TED. Yeah, I merged two different things. This is actually render is equal to that. And so we have, oh, come here. But that's probably coming from, that's not coming from this line. This should be create, we should have render. And B of ed is actually myself, so just B. So this says B is my buffer. So as an editor, I have a buffer, and then we're going to lex it and tell the token editor to render it by giving it all the tokens, all the rendered tokens, and then tell it to draw itself. And then now we have this you know, the idea is that this object is exactly the same size as myself, and so it should draw directly over in the place where I would draw. So right. So I think that's all right. So in here we don't have a TED. That's this line that's causing the trouble. Right. So this does not matter. So we don't need to tell TED anything. We don't need to position TED at all because when ed draws, it will have a buffer to draw to that where you can start at the upper left corner, 0, 0. Baby is waking up, so I need to feed her for 1 second here. I am prepared for this. Hello, baby. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right, and good morning to you. That's baby voice. All right. Value error TED. All right, so that should be fixed now. Let's try that again. And ed itself. Oh, because we called it shed, right? Yeah, okay, I'll just call it ed. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so it's term draw ed. But it is still a, yeah, so it's still a syntax highlight editor. And let's go. And that's not quite right. It does not have any text. It's not showing anything. Is it showing in black? No. Okay. Term draw TED. Let's think about that. That should absolutely be working. Thoughts? So the cursor's working, right? Let's see. Oh, no, sorry. Hello, the cursor is working. It's in the right spot. Let's, I'm gonna make an invalid token. Ooh. Stack error. Oh, I see why. Yeah, so I only want to render this cursor if we do this, because otherwise term draw is going to call render, and so we want to call term draw. So term draw includes rendering and rendering the cursor, but term draw needs to be it's a super method, right? So we need to do the same thing we did up there. So it's view I edit widget and then F, and we pass it the argument. We should be passing the argument Y, and so same thing here. Render cursor doesn't need that, but term draw TED. Really, the point of why here, so why you get a flag, the argument to this is a flag saying whether or not you have the focus. And I think that we only want to render the cursor if we are, if y is 1. So that should, we don't have to tell TED whether we have a cursor or not. But yeah, we will tell TED we have a cursor just in case someday it evolves its ability to draw its own cursor. But then we will still draw our own cursor atop of it. Atop it, yes. Okay, so that seems right to me. Draw the super, term draw the super, so that it calls render. Oh, I see. Maybe this might not work actually. Oh, but we don't need term draw. We are in a term draw thing. So this is render of super. So we can just call render of the super widget. Term draw actually something I believe we made it yesterday. That was actually creates a buffer, and so now we have a buffer at this point. So this should be all we need. All right. So hello. Okay, something is going wrong because we are not getting syntax highlighting. So let's turn that off, and let's just, everything's working, but no, it's not the right color, so that means this is failing. So let's double check. We have a TED. And okay, so TED of ed of the REPL is 3. That's object number 3. And it should have XY coordinates, which is right, which is what I expect. I'm going to remove this try catch temporarily and see what happens. Or I'm just going to move this out of the try catch and see what happens to avoid catching the error rate. So, oh, render cursor is causing the trouble. Hang on a second. We have a syntax line. That's correct. We are drawing term draw on here. Term draw of edge should be calling this function. All right, let's just comment all of this out. I forget I think it's, oh, I don't have a key bound to it. Normally if you type in a long thing like that in Emacs, it tells you what the key is. Interesting. I really expect that to work. Okay, so let's see what the B of TED is. B is that is the code I was typing that you couldn't see. So that's absolutely there. So let's try term draw. Let's try term draw this thing. Term draw of this. It runs it. Maybe if I pass it a 1, it doesn't like it. It doesn't like that. This is a mystery. Well, okay. This is absolutely a mystery. I think we're gonna encounter it again. Oh, I did that completely wrong, didn't I? We can do the same thing here and just tell it to render TED. Because we already have the buffer and we're positioned in exactly the same spot, so we should be able to just render that. Yeah, that works. But so as running that, now it's failing on this for some reason. Well, now we're back at the point where this should be fine. Render cursor. I'm not sure why the flag is not being used correctly as an if statement. But whatever. I don't like the mystery, but I just want to get this working. So, okay, we have a REPL working again. All right, so let's just call that a working REPL. So fix cursor behavior. That is done. Yes, we can finally check this code in. Oh, okay. So we haven't checked anything in. So let's see gd toke.ijs. What's changed here? Toke is the syntax highlighting thing. It had an errant clear screen the other day. Remove errant CSCR. I guess I don't need to push every single one of these. GD of mge.ijs. Yeah, so we'll check these in together. REPL IJS. Just yeah. So MJE. So what we've done here is we've merged. Let's see, merged. Use REPL.ijs from MJE. And merge their contents and merge behavior. Okay. I'll push that, and just to make sure, I don't think anything's. Oh, okay. Oh, and of course, and vid has changed. So git commit UI and vid, and we'll just say so in vid. I was fixing the namespace for this. I made this thing called blit earlier in the file and then overwrote it. So that's not what I wanted to do. So vid is overwrite blit. Or fix namespace for blit or blit vt, and that leaves this file. So UI implement term draw for widgets. UI. Okay, so that goes to the KVM repo. That goes to the JPrez repo. And all of this is, for those of you just tuning in, this is all up on github.com, TangentStorm JPrez. And from there, you can find links to the other repositories like KVM being the terminal library, keyboard, video, and mouse, which is slowly sprouting a whole user interface component library, or widget library, I guess. All right, let's see. Where are we now? That's me. All right, so we have kind of got a temporary solution for composite widgets, that being this term draw thing that allows us to draw a widget to a particular position on the screen, but still give it a buffer that allows it to think that it's up at 0, 0. Allow widgets, that is the solution. Implement, that's done, we just saw that. Make a REPL a composite widget, that is done. Oh, okay, so now, yeah, I left that r equals 1 you know, so right after you render it, you should be able to turn it off and say, okay, well, render is now 0, because you're not in need of a refresh because you just got refreshed. We just got redrawn. So with that flag is set to 1, it's going to continuously draw the thing over and over and over again. I left it on because I had a weird bug, and I wanted to make sure that bug was presenting itself to us. So there we go. Oh, that did not fix the problem. Okay, so this is something that needs to be fixed, but I can live with it for now. Oops, yeah. That is a bug, so I will leave that as a bug. All right, so in update copy R. Oh, maybe that's the fix to the bug. Actually, I think in MJE, let's see, MJE, we still talk about TED? No, we don't talk about TED, but we talk about ED, right? We talk about RED. RED being the REPL editor. So we need that for the keys here, but I think there's somewhere in here where we talk about, yeah, RED. So it's not that, yeah, so this is REPL, and we want our REPL. Oh, I see, hang on. It's the other way, yeah. Okay, I was about to do the exact opposite of what that says. So what that is saying is that in the update method, update, we refresh the whole REPL if R is equal to R or R of ed. So if a key press has happened and ed is in need of an update, then we propagate that up to the REPL itself. So now I believe that should, yes, so that fixed the problem. Oh, but I still have R equals 1. So let's say, I think even now if I set that to R equals 0, that should fix the problem. It does not. R equals 0. Why not? Red. Because the thought is that each one of these keys, oh, let's look for R REPL. So this is all coming from the idea, the problem being that we've got okay, so maybe try this now. We've got this event loop that is looking for the keyboard handler functions in a particular namespace, and right now we still have this kind of like mess associated with that, because like now we have this composite object, but only one of the children of that object is only one of the, yeah, somewhere in this little composite object hierarchy, we have the original editor, which is handling the keystrokes and modifying its own buffer, which is what I want, but the mechanism for dispatching to that is a little messed up, just because I don't really have a mechanism for that. So I am kind of like hard coding how the lookups work in here. It's kind of a mess, and that is something that needs to be adjusted. I think that is actually on my list, right? But key bindings table, no, that's not it. Optimize output of, this is of blit, of render blit. But no, I'm talking about fixed loop KBM, so left argument does not to be in, but also, yeah, I don't have a ticket for this, or these are my tickets, right? So really what I'm saying is like clean up the whole focus key binding mess. All right. So in the meantime, we will just tell the we will just continue to tell the REPL to redraw itself on each frame. So in REPL render. Not render, it's render underscore underscore REPL. Render underscore underscore REPL. And of course, org mode thinks that an underscore is doing something else. So. Okay. This is important, and I expect this to be part of this cleanup, so I'll put that right next to this other one. It's not something we have to fix now, it's just wasting CPU cycles. Okay, so this says I'm done here, but I don't know if I believe that. Make REPL a composite widget. All right, so what we really need is draw history, whether we're in it's part of MJE or not, and clean up that flag, which is, I guess, kind of the same thing. Okay, so just make sure we still got changes. I think this is what I want for now, even though it didn't fix the problem. I actually do want all these changes. And then what was the difference for REPL? Oh, for both of those files. So git commit clean up R flag for REPL, MJE, and REPL. I don't know if that's a very good description of what I just did, but okay. How much time do we have? We have half an hour. We're halfway through, so I feel like I'm jumping in and actually getting something done this time. I spent a lot of time talking in some of my other episodes, which is probably useful for people who don't know what's going on. Uh-oh. Hey, baby. Sleepyhead. Okay. I, too, am a sleepyhead. All right, so, yeah, so I think that what we need to do here is we need to get rid of this flag here. Let's see what this says. All right, so first of all, let's check to make sure how we're doing inside of this. So when I run the main program, render W does not work. Well, that is because ed is not a Well, ed is that. Ed is an object. Hist lines base. It's telling me that's a syntax error because one of those is not a verb or something. So which one does it not like? Render W. Okay, cursor 1. Hist lines base should still be there, yes. X hist base should still be there. And when it's drawing that, it's calling it REPL, so XY of ed of REPL should still be there. So why syntax error? Why would that be a syntax error? I can see this being a syntax error. So this line is saying, you know, if this is still looking at the outline. So this is a hack. We're delving into commands in the base directory. We're pulling stuff out of this. You know, we're completely violating encapsulation in so many different ways here. Really, this should be a standalone function that sets the but basically, as we move the cursor around, when we land on a, well, I can't show you, but when we land on a line that has the starting character that says if this is this, you know, this is like starts with, so if the value of commands, the current value of the command, so the command being the commands being the let me talk about what's going on. This widget right here is called commands. This is all the commands inside of the section. So when I land on a line like this, it says if that is if that, you know, val is this current line, whatever line is highlighted, and if it starts with this, then we assign the token. So, but we don't need this. This is actually B of ed. Our editor now, because it is not doing this work. And it is this, so this is to drop of a val, meaning drop the colon and the space. So really it should be colon space here. And this was left over from the time when I was not doing this. So this is handled by this. This may actually go away. I mean, ideally this should be moved back into MJE. But this this is the part about setting the or drawing the history. Or this is the important part. These are the important lines here. Let's see. Nothing should have changed here. This should still work. Yeah. Because we're inside of this if statement about MJE, but this, I don't think I fixed this yet. Yeah, syntax error render W. Why would that fail? It could fail if REPL does not call, when I do conu of REPL, I do pass in I do call the constructor. UI REPL. Conu UI syntax line, that's correct. We know it's correct because it's working. And this is working. So why doesn't it work here? It's not like we're calling this before hist lines is defined. basically this is figuring out which line xhist base 3 space prompt. This is figuring out which line of the screen, this is figuring out the coordinates of that. So the length of, yeah, so this is a constant. X hist base is a number, 72. That's the x coordinate of the history in the base locale. And hist lines base, oh, maybe this has, gives me a bunch of empty lines for the history. Let's turn the cursor back on. So, oh, there's two. There's two of these. That's so dumb. All right, because I had Ted in there, right? Okay, so I didn't even see that. Okay, all right, so that's dumb. That's a dumbness on my part. All right, so now this should work. What a waste of time. There we go. Okay, so things are working there. We've lost this notion of drawing the drawing this first line. This should be appearing here somewhere. All right, so if I press Shift E, it should allow me to start typing in the REPL, and it is not working. Okay. Whereas here, this does work. Okay, you know what? I'm going to take a break from this and come back to this in a minute. So I'm gonna implement something on here that is easy, and that is this, because this drives me nuts every single time. I press this key and I cannot get it to do what I want. I want Control K to clear the end of the line. So we're going to do this right now. And we'll worry about the rest of that later. So let me check this in. GD REPL, what have I changed? All right, so fix bug, fix syntax error in REPL. IJS, fix this. All right, we'll do something hopefully easy here. Okay. Of course, I think in Vim, what you say is D that, and so I'm gonna just call this K for now so I can record it. So we're gonna call this kill to end of line. So to do, this is probably D should do this. It's the correct key. This is the correct macro for this. But EOL is equal to this. All right, so if we have multiple cursors, what does that do? KEOL. If you have multiple cursors on one line, you say kill to the end of the line. What does it actually do? I'll tell you what it does. It's going to say, we're going to make up the rule for that. We're going to say C is equal to the head of C. So we're going to reduce down to one cursor. And then B is equal to this take of B. So if I'm on here, do I remove the B or not when I press Control K? I would expect the B to go away. Yes. Okay, so that is, so we want one more than that. And if that happens to be 0 now, if we're at the start of the line, we don't want -1 take. So we don't want -1 take of hello, because that would give us the last, that'll give us the O, right? Yeah. So we want 0 max. So what is max? Max is this. So if we say 0 max of this, that should be 0, and we get an empty string. So that's what I want. Control K, kill end of line to EOL. Is that clear? It's clear to me. I don't know if it's kind of cryptic code. Okay, so we have a buffer. We're going to take a section of the buffer just like this. So if we say, here's our buffer, buffer, and then we take one item from it, well, we get a B. We take 3 items from it, we get that. So now in parentheses, we have a cursor. We have, our cursor might actually have multiple items in it. We have, we have multiple cursors here. But if we take the first one, we get 2. It's the same thing, but there's no left argument. So that's called a head. So we take the first one, and so C equals just the first cursor, leaving it in place. The cursor doesn't move when you do this. And then the cursor, so that we reduce it to the first cursor, we leave the cursor in place, and then we cut the buffer going 1 before that. So if the cursor is at position 2, then the rest of the string is the hang on, cursor's at the very left, we want this. We go right 1, we want this. I think this was unnecessary. I think this is exactly what it needs to be. So it was not correct. Okay, so collapse cursors. Collapse. Kill to collapse cursor, or collapse cursors, and then kill to end of line. All right, so, and then in the key binding somewhere, yeah, so then now we have this for Control C and K, or sorry, the key, which is Control K, should be log, and we're going to log capital K, even though I don't know what that does in Vim. I'm going to try it. So what does that do? K. Ooh, okay, well, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to execute the shell in our language, so I think K is a perfectly valid thing, and then that. So perfectly valid key to use. We're not going to do the full Vim language, so if that does something with the shell and execute something, then instead we will use it to kill to the end of the line. And that will be part of our macro code. So now, if I go back here and I press, that's so much better. That's probably one of my most frequently used keys. So all right, so we've added that. So all right, so all those changes were in there. Yeah. So UI edit.ijs. UI edit Control K to kill to end of line. Okay. Hooray! That's probably my that's my favorite feature so far. Okay. All right. So now let's go back to this. How much time do we have? We still have. I've got a fan right in front of my clock. We still have 10 minutes, 11 minutes in this show. So can we fix this problem? Let's see. What is the problem again? Let's refresh. The problem is that we are not drawing the. We're not drawing the one line that needs to be drawn over there. Oh, so I just pressed Shift E, and I'm definitely in the editor. Nothing is responding. I managed to crash the editor, and now we're out of the whole thing. So let's try that again. But the point is, when I press Shift E, it should go into this editor. And when I go here, it's meant to be drawing this on the screen. So that was that line here. I'm not sure what's happening here. Well, let's see if we can diagnose it. Okay, so the problem is that when I go here, it's not showing up on the screen. I'm wondering if maybe it's showing up right underneath everything here. So let's look at that. So we have. Right, I can't run the full application in this small amount of space, but I'm going to break this window and then join the window from section 2, which should be that. So this is MJE. This is the whole thing. It's not going to run right, but yeah. We still got errors. It looks like I reintroduced another error when the size is wrong. But the point is that we can inspect it, although now I put it into a bad state. So let's zoom the window, reload, run it. It works fine. Exit, and now unzoom the window. And let's see. So now Ed is line edited, so I hope I didn't. Let's see what is going on with MJE here. We have this idea of REPL. That should be an object. It is. We have plenty of objects. Oh, am I leaking something? Could be leaking something here. Definitely on every frame we're creating an object and destroying it, so that's causing this counter to go up. But I think every time it's crashing, we're leaving a copy of all the objects in place, so that's probably a mess, but normally that wouldn't happen. I don't think this is a huge problem right now. I don't know if this is a resource that I need to conserve. It kind of goes up to 2 to the 32nd, so maybe infinite, I don't know. Because J does have extended precision integers, and these are just strings, so this could be as high as you want, I guess. Okay, but so I'm not going to worry about that. But so we have REPL, and it's this big number, and then, or it's the object with that big number. It has an editor, and editor has XY coordinates, which is 7523. So now the height and width of the REPL is, oh no, they're separate objects. It's 86 for the width. Wait, what? Oh, that's the problem right there. Yeah, I'm still positioning this on the screen as if this object did not have its own buffer. So the x coordinate right there, xy, is 75. So it's 75 pixels off to the, or 75 characters off to the right. So really, this is, I no longer need this. This should be 0. So we're taking this is all about how do I position the line, the input line within the buffer, right? Within the entire widget, which contains the history. So I need to, as generally, if you like clear your screen, your cursor is going to be at the top of the screen. You're going to start typing, and every time you press enter, it's going to show you the output, and then it's going to move that line down. And so that's what this is doing. This is positioning the token editor on the last line. So this is the input, the input, the editor, draw the line editor input prompt on the last line of the thing. So I had an offset there to position it when I was dealing with the whole screen, and I was kind of faking this idea of a composite widget. But now that I have a composite widget, it has its own local internal coordinates, and I was just pushing it off to the right. So that's the solution. You okay, baby? You want this more? She's all done. No more hungries for that baby. Okay. Let's see. I believe that's going to work, and so now it's still in this thing, so it should not affect anything. So okay, so now I got to reconstruct my terminal. So I'm going to break this one. That goes here. Rename this to MJE, and then pull in. I got to figure out where I lost my. I think it's probably 6. So join 6. Tmux. This program is called Tmux for those of you who have never used it. And so yeah, so when I break out of here, just make sure this should still work. I love that Control K. Now when I run this one, or I could have just hit reload at that point, but now further issues. Okay. So now the XY ed of REPL is 323, whereas the REPL itself has a height of 24, and the XY of REPL is right. It's at 72.0, so it's at the upper left. It's at the center top of the screen, which is correct. Its width is that. Its height is 24. And the REPL should be appearing at 323, which would be the last line of this, which is what I want. However, it is not working. What happens if I press Shift E now? I'm still taking input. It's not drawing it to the screen. Okay. Okay. Just double check. I have that. XY of the REPL is 72.0, and then XY of ed of REPL is at 323. That's correct. 323 within that space. That is, how wide is the REPL? The REPL is 64 wide, and it is 1 tall. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. The editor is 1 pixel tall, or 1 character tall, whereas the REPL is the whole buffer is 24 lines tall. What if I take this out? That should leave it at the top of the screen, but it should draw now. It does. Oops, that's not what I wanted. RL, reload. So that's there. If I press Shift Enter or Shift E, I am able to. I'm able to move the cursor around, but it's not drawing, not redrawing. Okay. Fine. We are at 9 o'clock. All right, so we got a mystery, and rather than sit here and let me gaze in awe and wonder at this mysterious bug, I'm going to think about it tonight and through the rest of the day, and come back tomorrow refreshed and ready to tackle this bug. So if you like the show, please leave a like on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, or you can follow me on Twitch to tune in and be notified whenever I drop in for office hours or early in the morning when I'm doing the show. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon.